All right, so let's look at this. Let's continue on here. So now here I've got sine x is less than or equal to square root 2 over 2, and this is between 0 and 2 pi. So it's not between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 anymore. It's between 0 and 2 pi, and it includes 0, and it's less than or equals to. So let's go ahead and look. If I go ahead and draw sine, because that's all this is here. There's no phase shift. There's nothing changed. This is just the parent function of sine, right? And so if I go ahead and draw that, what I'm going to have for this would be between 0 and 2 pi. And I need to know each time it's going to equal square root 2 over 2. Well, I sure hope you know that answer by now. That's going to be pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. Okay? So it's on those intervals, or not on those intervals, it's at those locations where it's going to equal square root 2 over 2. And now I just need to answer the question of my inequality. And so it wants to know, when is sine going to be less than that? And if I want to know less than, then what I've got here is it's going to be going down here, and it's going to be going here, like through this entire thing. So it'll end up being greater than square root 2 over 2 again, but it won't be until the next period, which is beyond 2 pi, so it doesn't matter. So this one's really nice and easy. 10 out of 10. I want all these questions. So what I've got right here, my interval for my answer on this case would be from 0 to pi over 4. And I include both 0 and pi over 4 because 0 is included in my domain and it's less than or equals to. And so it equals 0 and it equals square root 2 over 2 at pi over 4. And then I've got my union, and then I'm going to pick back up again at 3 pi over 4. And then I'm going to go all the way to 2 pi. And it does not equal 2 pi because, again, that's right there in my given restrictions. Okay, so that's my answer. Next. All right, so if I have cosine x minus 1 is greater than 0, first thing I've got to do is get cosine by itself. So I'm going to go cosine x is greater than 1/2. I get that just from adding the 1/2 to the other side. So think about that. Between 0 and 2 pi, because that's what I have my restrictions as right here, when does cosine equal 1/2? Well, it's going to equal 1/2 at pi over 3. So let's go ahead and write that, pi over 3. It's also going to equal that at 5 pi over 3. Okay? So now what I'm trying to figure out is, when is it going to be greater than that? Well, let's go ahead and draw a picture so we can have that. All right. So here's what I've got. So pi over 3, let's think about what my cosine function is going to look like in this case. Now, I've moved my graph left. Oh, nope, just kidding. I did not move it left. I moved it down 1/2. Okay, so I didn't move it left or right. I didn't change my amplitude. I didn't flip my graph, and I most certainly did not change my period. All I did was just move it down 1/2. So what that means now is that this is no longer at 0. This is now going to be at negative 1/2. I didn't change my amplitude, so it's still going to be negative 1/2 plus 1. So that's going to give me 1/2 up top here, and that's going to get me negative 3/2 down here. Okay, not so much important, but still going to be important. So I have, when cosine is equal to 1/2 is at pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. If this graph was not shifted at all, which it's not, it's just moved down, I'm going to have my maximum up here at 0. Then I'm going to cross my x-axis right here at pi over 2. I'm going to go here at the bottom at pi, cross my x-axis again at 3 pi over 2, and then I'm going to hit my next maximum at 2 pi. So where is pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3 in this case? Gotta pick that color. So pi over 3 is less than pi over 2. It's going to be about right here. Let's go with that. And then 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi, I've got 5 pi over 3, which is going to be about right here. Okay. And now it wants to know, when is it greater than this? So that means that my value that I'm looking for all has to be larger. So it's going to be here and here. Okay. So what I've got from my final answer here will be from 0 to pi over 2. It does not have an equals to in my inequality. So this is going to be not equals to pi over 2, union. And then I'm going to go right here from 3 pi over 2. Again, it's not going to equal 3 pi over 2, so I don't include that, to 2 pi. And I cannot, I was going to say I cannot include 2 pi, and the reason I can't include it is because that's excluded from my domain. So that's going to be my answer for this one. All right, let's keep on trucking. All right, so what I've got here, I've got cosine 3x is greater than square root 3 over 2. Notice it's no longer from 0 to 2 pi. It is from negative pi to pi. So one of the things I also have to be really careful about, this has a 3. So how many solutions am I going to have? How often does cosine equal square root 3 over 2 without having any changes to my period? If I go between 0 and 2 pi, it's going to equal positive square root 3 over 2 twice. So what I'm going to do here is I've got cosine 3x is going to be greater than the square root 3 over 2. I'm just rewriting the problem because my brain. And so now I've got 3x is going to be greater than the inverse cosine square root 3 over 2. Well, when does cosine equal square root 3 over 2? That's going to be at pi over 6. It's also going to happen again when? It's also going to happen again for cosine. That will be at 11 pi over 6. Okay, so I'm not even worried about this negative pi to pi right now. All I'm doing is just kind of figuring out what I've got. Okay, I can worry about that in a few minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what my period chain is going to do here. So it's going to compress my graph by 3. It's shrinking it down 3. So now instead of just having 2 solutions, I'm tripling that, and I'm going to have 6. So let's go ahead and get those other 4 things that I would have. So if we think about this, it's going to happen in the same place every single time, every single period. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go ahead and add 2 pi right here. And so pi over 6 plus 2 pi, that's going to go ahead and get me 13 pi over 6. And then I'm going to do the same thing here to 11 pi over 6. So if I have 11 pi over 6 and I go ahead and do 2 pi, that's going to get me 23 pi over 6. And then I'm going to do this one more time. And so I'm going to take that 13 pi over 6 and I'm going to add 2 pi, and that's going to get me 25 pi over 6. And I'm going to do the same thing over here to the 23 pi over 6. And I'm going to go ahead and add 2 pi to that, and that would get me 35 pi over 6. Okay. So once I've done that, that's gotten me my 6 solutions that I would have. And that would be what I would have if I was able to do this without any sort of restrictions. I still need to keep going a little bit here because I've not solved for x. It's still 3x right now. So let's go ahead and get x by itself. And so that means I'm just going to multiply each one of these by 1/3. So now just all I'm going to do is just change all of those denominators to 18 because pi over 6 times 1/3, 18. And all of them are going to be 6 times 3. Okay? Okay, bam, done. 18. So now that's what I've got for my values for x once I've gone ahead and multiplied everything by 1/3. So now if I take a look at this, I need to kind of make sure that everything's within my restrictions. Well, my restrictions are from negative pi to pi. So that means if I have 18 as my denominator, I can't have a numerator larger than 18. So that means that this one, and this one fall out of my restrictions here. Now, this would be what I would have if I was able to go ahead and go from 0 to 2 pi. I'm not going from 0 to 2 pi. I'm going from negative pi to pi. It's still a distance of 2 pi. I've not changed the length that I have, so I'm not going to change the number of total solutions I have. I've shifted now that I do not have 3 solutions there because they're outside of my restrictions. On the right, that means instead I'm going to pull in 3 from the left. And that's because I'm looking at negative pi to 0 now instead of just starting at 0. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to take that pi over 18, and I'm just going to go ahead and subtract from there my period length, which pi over 18, I'm going to go ahead and subtract the period, which is 2 pi over 3. Okay? And so in the same spot, every single time, 2 pi over 3 away, it's going to get me the same exact thing. Now notice, I'm subtracting 2 pi over 3. Earlier, I went ahead and just did everything before I had divided by 3. And that's not going to change what I'd have here. If I did pi over 18 plus 2 pi over 3, this right here, in order to do that, I'd have to multiply this by 6 and this by 6, and that would be 12 pi over 18, which would get me 13 pi over 18. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm taking my value and I'm adding and subtracting my period repeatedly. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just, instead of doing negative 2 pi over 3, what I'm really going to do is 12 pi over 18. So if I do 2 minus 12 pi, or why did I say 2? Pi minus 12 pi, that would be negative 11 pi over 18. So there's one solution. Then I need to get the next one. I'm going to subtract again. So now I'm going to do negative 11 pi minus 12 pi. And that's going to go ahead and get me negative 23 pi over 18. Now notice, negative 23 pi over 18, that's going to be beyond negative pi. So I can't use that one. What do I do now? If you notice earlier when we did this, I marked out one solution that was in the same spot as this pi over 18. So that means that I'm only going to have to do one more solution from that pi over 18. I marked out 2 down here. So now that means instead I'm going to take that 11 pi over 18 and I'm going to subtract 12 pi over 18 from it. And if I do that twice, I'm going to get both the answers that I'm missing. So if I do this, I do 11 pi over 18 minus 12 pi over 18, that's going to get me negative pi over 18. Okay, so there's one. And then I'm going to go ahead and find my other one. And my other one would be if I did negative pi over 18 minus 12 pi over 18. And that's going to get me negative 13 pi over 18. So here, and these 6 locations are all of the critical points that I need to look at. And I haven't even graphed this yet. And I'm about out of time on my video, and I'm going to have to do another one.